Hello and welcome to Rain Francis Art. My name is Rain. Well, today we're doing a watercolor study. We're going to try to paint water droplets or raindrops. I hope you join along. All right, let's do our water drop study. I'm using Strathmore watercolor cold press paper. It's 9 by 12 at 140 pound. It's the 300 series. This is a great student grade paper canvas that you can use for studies and practicing. As for paints, I'm using my pan paints today. I'm only going to use one color today, and I'm choosing one of these reds here. You can choose any color that you like. I wouldn't suggest that you use a really dark color, like maybe a dark green or black or gray. Just use a bright color, green, red, blue, anything you want. We're going to also need some titanium white or any kind of white watercolor paint that you have. I have a tube of titanium white. It's Holbien HWC. And the reason I'm using my tube paint is because I want to use the watercolor without adding water to it. And I'll show you that after. So I have my little palette here that I've already put some paint into. I do have white here in my pan, but I can never get enough on my brush to get the opacity that I want. So as for brushes, I have my large round brush that I'm going to use just to paint in my background. And I've got some other brushes here. I have my number 4 liner brush. I have this tiny little round brush. It says 3/0. It's a very small round brush. And I just have a flat brush here. I think it's a number 8. Yeah, it's a number 8 flat, and I'm going to use that for blending. I've got some water, I've got some paper towels, and I have my canvas taped down. Just not necessarily because I want to frame it, just because this paper really buckles, and I plan to put 2 coats on the canvas for my background. Now, before we begin, I've got my Bob Ross cards that I always pull out so that we can see what Bob Ross wants us to know today. Let's get some Bob Ross wisdom. Oh, you can do anything you want to do. This is your world, okay? That's very true. That's true in painting, and it's true in life. You can do anything you want to. This is your world, my friends. No one can harsh your buzz unless you let them. All right, why don't we just start by painting in our background? I have some water here that I'm just going to put on my canvas just randomly. I'm going to put paint on the entire paper that I framed out, but I'm just putting water on first. I'm doing wet on wet, or wet in wet, and I'm going to choose this red here. I'm going to load up my brush, and I'm just putting a lot of paint on there. And I don't necessarily want a uniform color because I want to see the water droplets through dark red, through light red, through pink. Not too dark though. Like I said, we don't want dark, dark, dark. So like I said, just randomly putting in a lot of color. I'm choosing the red next to it. That was kind of a mistake. I said I was only going to use one color. But that's all right. As Bob Ross says, this is my world. I'm going back into that red that I wanted at the beginning. All right. So I'm just going to leave that as is, and I'm going to let it dry, and when it dries I'm going to see if I want to add a second coat. Well, my canvas is dry, and I think I'm going to add a second layer of that red color. So I'm going to do just wet on dry right now. I'm putting some water on my big brush, and I'm going to go in and just do a second coat. Like before, just kind of randomly. I say second coat like as if I'm painting a wall. A second layer of color, let's use that term. I hope that the lighting is okay for you today, my friends. I didn't want to put on my my bright lights because I have a bit of a headache going on, And those lights are very, very bright. So I just have my little desk lamp on, and I'm hoping that that's going to be bright enough for you to see. When it comes down to doing the water droplets, I'm going to bring my camera a little closer to the canvas so that you can see up close what I'm doing. And we're going to paint a lot of water droplets onto our canvas. Now I'm going to let that dry and then we can start. You really, really want to make sure that it's very dry, my friends. If you want to use a hairdryer on the cold setting, go ahead. But you don't want it to be wet at all, because basically when you start to paint in your water droplets, they're just going to blend right into your background. So make sure that your canvas is very dry. Well, my friends, my background is completely dry, and I've brought my camera closer to my canvas so that you can see what I'm doing as a close-up. So for me, there are 4 steps in doing a water droplet, okay? And I'm using that same red color for the water droplet, okay? So let me move these things around. The first step is to use, if you have a liner brush or a very small brush where you can get a fine painting line. I'm wetting my liner brush and I'm going to put it into that red watercolor paint that I used for the background. And the first step is to paint the water droplet, but not completely. I'm doing an oval here. All right? So that's the first step. Now I'm going to take that flat brush and I'm wetting it and dabbing it so that it's damp, and I'm smudging. I'm smudging that line. I'm not smudging it outside of the water droplet, I'm smudging it inside. So I'm basically blending it into the water droplet. But I do want to be able to see some of that outline. So I'm kind of being careful not to blend too much because I want to keep that outline. And what I'm doing off camera here is I'm cleaning my brush and dabbing it on paper towel to make sure it's clean every time I come in to blend. Now this is how I do it. Some people use black to do their water droplets. I don't like the look of that. If it were a black and white painting, sure, yeah, that would look great. Now I've come outside the line a little, so I'm going to erase that. Erase it. I've been doing kids drawing lessons, so I'm mixing up all of my terminology here. Lift it. There we go. So what I've done here is I've pulled some of that blended color off because I want to see the color underneath. And I'm pulling the blended paint to complete my circle. Okay, so now I have a complete water droplet. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that titanium white, and I have 2 spots here where I put it. This one here, I have water, and I'm taking my tiny little round brush. So my watered down paint, I'm going to use to complete the circle on the bottom. All right, and with that same brush, I'm just wiping it down, wetting it and wiping it off. I'm just going to blend up into the water droplet. I'm blending it and I'm removing some at the same time because I don't want it to be opaque. I want it to be a transparent white at this point. So I'm cleaning off my brush, dabbing it on my paper towel so that it's damp, and I'm just really, really blending up. And I'm going to take that flat brush, nice and clean, and just pull a little of that white off. Okay, so far that's what we got. Now the next step, I'm taking that tiny little round brush again. I'm going into my white paint that I have not blended with water. I've not added any water to this, okay? Because I want it to be nice and opaque. So here's what I'm doing on the side. I'm putting a little arc of white up there, and down on the bottom, a little arc of white as well. The one on the top, I want it to be very, very opaque. All right, the one on the bottom doesn't need to be as opaque. But that's the procedure to do the water droplet, at least my procedure. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up my camera and I'm just going to go and start practicing doing water droplets all over my page. I hope that I explained that okay. I'm just going to do small ones and big ones. I'll show you how to do a small one after. I have way too much water on this. And I'm just kind of staggering them around, and I'm making them different different shapes, because raindrops aren't all the same shape, right? Or water droplets. Now, before that dries, I'm going to go and do step 2. Blend those. This one has way too much water on it. I'm just soaking up the water and dabbing it onto my paper towel. And this one we can use a little more. You see what I'm doing? I'm just basically blending as I did before and completing the circle. This one I'm going to redo because I didn't have enough paint. I'm just pulling off some of that paint in the middle so that the page shows through a little bit. So I'll go back into my red color with my liner brush. It's got too much water on it. I'm going to have to dab that. Okay. Let me redo this one. Maybe I should just do a couple at a time. Smudging or blending into the water droplet. Using that blended paint to complete the circle. And then with a clean damp brush, I'm going to pull some of that paint out of the middle. Same thing for this one. And the great thing with watercolor is that even if it dries, all you have to do is go in with a damp brush and you can blend. If you're doing this with acrylic, you don't usually have a second chance. There we go. They're all going to look different. I'm going to do a few more. But I don't want, I put way too much water into my my red there. So let me see, I'll do a few. I'll do them one at a time. Complete the circle. And then pull some of that paint off from the middle. When we're done with these big ones, I'm going to show you how to do the small ones. I think I already said that. I did so many water droplets over the last couple of days. I'm really trying to learn how to do this. And I'm badly placed here. I'm gonna have to get up and do it from this side here. I'm trying to, I have my camera placed on my above my canvas, and it's taped down so that you can see well. But sometimes it's hard to blend on the right side like that. When I'm painting without filming, I usually move my page around a lot, move my canvas around. All right, let's do a few more. I'm gonna do a few down here. Oh, that's a big one. That's all right. There we go, completing the circle and pulling some of the paint off from the middle area. Okay, now I think I'm ready to add the white. I'm doing this kind of in steps here. I'll do all of the white at the same time. And I've got that white here that's mixed with water in my tiny little brush. And I'll start from the left and work my way across. I'll do just 4 at a time. And I'm going to take that flat brush, make sure there's no red paint on it, and I'm going to use that to sort of blend up. Okay. I'll continue with that step. I think I can do all 5 of these. There we go. And blend up. All right. Now the last step is to take that pure paint and just do the little arcs. I'm going to start with the top arcs. I'm running out of paint. It's starting to dry up a little bit. The thing is, I don't want to add water to it, but I might have to because my paint is drying a little bit. I added the tiniest amount of water. Titanium white is still very opaque, so even if I add the tiniest little bit of water to it, it's still going to have the opacity that I want. And in case you don't know what I'm talking about, if it's opaque, it's not transparent, right? It doesn't, you can't see through it. All right, now I'm just going to add a little bit of white with some water, just a little water to the bottom. Another little kind of arc on that side. fix this one a bit. So what do you think, my friends? Do they look like water drops? To me, from my perspective right now, they just look like little capsules of pills. But I guess, you know, I think they kind of look like water drops. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do the small ones. The procedure is basically the same for the tiny ones. I'm using my little round brush because my liner brush might be a little bit too big to do the small water droplets. So what I'm doing is just tiny little sort of I don't know, arches like that, and I'm wetting that brush and I'm quickly just filling it in completely with the blend. And then I'm wetting that brush again and dabbing it and pulling just a little bit out from the middle, just a little bit. You may or may not want to do that or be able to do that because it's a tiny, tiny little droplet. You may not be able to get it out too much. But that's that. Then we go into the white. And I'm in the white that has water in it, okay? And I'm doing the bottom. Just a little, I'm doing the arc on the bottom. And then I'll go into my more, into the paint that doesn't have much water. I had to put in some because it started to dry. And then I'm going to put a little tiny dot on the top of an arc as I have shaky hands. So just little drops like that. So let me fill up my page and then we'll take a look at it. So the last thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to take some of that white with water, but I don't want it to be really, really watery, so I'm kind of mixing it in with my pure paint here. And I've got my tiny little brush, and I'm going to go very, very, very slowly, and I'm just going to put little white dots. There's a tendency to want to hurry through this part, but I'm going as slow as I can. And I have really, really shaky hands. I don't drink caffeine either. I guess I have a little stress in my life, but you know what? This is helping me out here. My page isn't stuck down anymore. Tape kind of came up, so my canvas is moving around. And I'm sorry I keep saying page. I mean my canvas, you know. It is a page, but like I said, I've been doing a lot of drawing lessons for the kids' art channel, so I'm mixing up saying drawing and painting and canvas and paper, erasing and lifting. I want to use the correct terminology. Oops, see, when you go too fast, you could do them a little too big. So I'm going to slow it down. You don't have to do this part, I just think it looks kind of cool. There was a lady who did this on her video when she was doing water droplets, and I thought it looked really nice. The thing is, try not to do them linear, you know, you want them to be random if possible. I gotta slow down. And you know, like I said, you could use any color. I chose red. You could do green. Purple would be really cool. And if you wanted to do a black and white, you know, you could do kind of a grayish background and use black for your raindrop outline. There we go. There's my water droplet or rain droplet study. It is done. Why don't I just make myself happy and pull the masking tape off like I normally do. Not that we need it off, but I did end up putting color over my entire canvas, so I do have a nice framed painting now. There, you see, it's nice and framed. What did you think, my friends? Did you enjoy doing this? Do they look like raindrops and water droplets? I think they look pretty close to that. Maybe they're a little too oval. Maybe I should have done a few more that were round. But still, it's good to practice these things, you know. It helps you with your technique. If you enjoyed this video, my friends, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to leave me a comment. I love reading your comments and I do reply to them. I'll see you next time on Rain Francis Art. Thanks again for being here. Bye.